Welcome to Sandbox FOMO5 from Bureau Happold. Each week we pick short snippets from our most recent episode for your listening pleasure. These quick listens could be valuable insights, thought-provoking elements, or even practical advice that will no doubt enrich your life and knowledge. Sandbox brings together curious individuals interested in a specific topic to discuss, dissect, and interrogate it. The style is conversational, with experts from Bureau Happold and invited external guests who will add another angle to the narrative. Listeners are encouraged to gather around our podcast so that we can explore the latest advances in various fields and expand our collective horizons. Sometimes we'll tackle a subject head-on, sometimes a sideways view, but always with curiosity, expertise, and who knows, maybe even a dash of humour. Now, what is your dream capital city, panel? And so the dream capital city that you'd like to see, and how best can we achieve that? Rainier, I'm going to go to you first. What's the London you'd like to see in 2050?
I think the London I would like to see is car-free. I think that's a really big goal. We've got a long way to go, but just having those open spaces, giving back space to people, to pedestrians, to cyclists, but then also finding a way to bring back nature back into the city. There's so many existing watercourses that have been buried by roads and development. If there's a way to re-engage and reinvigorate those spaces to really create a city that's more conducive to nature and really considers the climate going forward. So I think if we can get rid of the cars, that would be great. I think how people interact with the city. So again, I think it comes down to user behavior. It's very easy to change regulation and take away cars or provide new infrastructure for cycling and pedestrians, but there has to be a driver from the residents of London to really make a change. I mean, that could even be as something as small as thinking about circular economy, how you recycle, how you reuse things. So I think it's definitely twofold. The city needs to modernize and adapt. It has all the tools it needs to do so with regards to giving space over to people, pedestrians and cyclists. But then we have to think about the human scale as well, how people use the space and how people change their behavior going forward.
Thank you. And Lawrie, the same question to you. What's your dream city of 2050?
To keep it with London as well, I think if I look ahead to that 2050 for London, which in city planning terms is actually not so far away, two things. I'd love to see London retain its role as a global centre for innovative economies, for knowledge generation, for the kind of the openness and cultural creativity that it has at the moment. So I'd love to see us keep there with all the change that will imply. Equally importantly, the big change I'd like to see is that London fundamentally changes that cost of quality of life equation for its residents. It's become heartbreakingly expensive, and with that, heartbreakingly underperforming for far too many of its residents at the moment. And what I'd love to see is a London that is managing to provide housing for its residents affordably, good housing affordably, that's managing to create that connectivity and access, be it digital and physical, across the whole economy for its residents at prices that they can afford. And it's creating those local, resilient 15-minute communities that we were talking about, accessible to everyone, so that those, what's a lottery at the moment, I live inside it, I can access it, or I don't for many, becomes something which is a model which is universal. With that, I'd expect, and to be slightly controversial for a moment, that this is a London that will need to spread far beyond its current boundaries by 2050. We'll only achieve that if we integrate our planning and management of the whole wider functional city region around London, and that's a big space. We talk about the 100-mile city. Doesn't mean unified political governance, but it does mean coordination and cooperation to be able to make all of that work together as an integrated whole.
That's a fascinating idea about the 100-mile city. Now, obviously, active travel is great, but with a 100-mile city might be slightly more problematic. So what do we do about public transport in 2050? What's the future there? I'll go to Lawrie first.
I think it's a really important point that you raise here. Rightly, we've been talking a lot about how I move within that 15-minute community. But once you move up to that other scale of connectivity that we were talking about, the thing that keeps us working together as a connected global city, you're moving over much longer distances. Every city needs backbone transportation infrastructures. And in London, again, it's a mixed story. We've done some really good ones. We've done world-class projects. I mean, most recently, things like the Elizabeth line. The problem is we make them rather expensive and we do them rather slow. The Elizabeth line is great, but it's 30 years after we said we needed it. We already need the next one, and the delivery of that is a long way over the horizon. We need to find ways of taking that backbone infrastructure that we have, the railway system particularly, but also our major, the road network that underpins the capital and the wider region around it, and reuse that intelligently, frugally, augment it so that it can create backbone connectivity that we need to underpin the city in the future.
Thank you very much. And Rainier, have you got anything to add to that?
Just second that point. If you look at London's backbone transport infrastructure, you look at the London Underground, over 160 years old and still going strong, right? So we've got a lot of really good infrastructure that just needs to be upgraded, and it's doing a really, really good job. I think cost of transport is an issue, so I think that's something that we do need to consider. And then maybe in the future, it's leveraging future technologies around autonomous vehicles and around electric vehicles for that last mile or maybe last 5 mile journey. So it's really looking to the future, but at the end of the day, the backbone infrastructure is there. London is really well connected.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that quick dip into our last episode of Sandbox. Don't forget to subscribe to follow the show. You'll find Sandbox in all the usual places, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Bureau Happold's YouTube channel, and on the Bureau Happold website. What's more, if you want to join the conversation on X, known as Twitter to its old friends, use the hashtag BHSandbox. We'd love to hear from you on any of the topics discussed.